morning, friends. We are celebrating Epiphany Sunday today. We're not quite to Epiphany. Epiphany is actually on December 6th, the 12th day of Christmas, but we are still solidly in the Christmas season, and it is the Sunday closest to the 12th day of Christmas, which is Epiphany. So this is the day that we get to talk about the wise men's part of the story, the Magi part of the story, the part of the story with the star, which this year is really kind of fun because we had that really cool Christmas star experience on the 21st, right? Where it's entirely possible that what we saw, what we witnessed on the 21st was what the wise men saw, was the star that they saw in the sky, was the star that we know that they are said to have followed in the Bible. And I can remember when I was a little girl, every Christmas Eve for years and years, standing on the front steps or in the front lawn of my grandparents' house on Christmas Eve and trying to find that star. The star, even though it's not a huge part necessarily of the Christmas story, at some point it became a huge part of my Christmas narrative, of the part of the story that made sense to me, that I held in my heart. And I think, especially this year, as we've been going through the days and the weeks leading up to December 21st, where we got our Christmas star in 2020, that we were the first people in hundreds of years to be able to witness that exact celestial phenomenon. I think as I've been thinking about that and thinking about being a little girl and looking for that star every year, I think it's because it is a beacon, right? It is a beacon of light. It is something that you can see, that you can follow. The wise men follow it in the story. And in our lives, we're always looking for those bright spots, those beacons of light. And I think that for me, it is such a big part of the story because not just on Christmas, but always, year round, we are needing to look for those signs and those people and those things and those experiences that help us to see God and help us to live life out with love the way that God wants us to. So today we get to talk about the wise men's part of the story. Here's the wise men from our nativity set at home. These were actually made by Brian's great aunt, and so it's a family treasure, family heirloom. And we will not put them away until we get to Epiphany. And today we get to tell their part of the story. And we're going to read Italian folklore called La Befana, which is, folklore, folktale is how over time people have come to understand certain things in a culture. And the Italians have this wonderful story of La Befana that is tied to Epiphany and tied to the wise men. And the version of the story we're going to read today leans heavily on the imagery of the star and looking at the star and the hope and the love and the wonder that come with that star, and taking the invitation to follow, to seek, to look for. La Befana is going to turn down an invitation in the story and then come to realize that she should have actually accepted this invitation. And that's where the story really gets deep into thinking about what we choose to follow, who we choose to follow, how we choose to follow things. And it is a wonderful, beautiful story that reminds us to follow God every day, not just at Christmas, but every day with hope and love, and to look for those signs and to find ways in our world, in our own little ways, to continue living out the hope and love and joy of Christmas year round. So this is the story of La Befana. I hope you enjoy it. La Befana and the Star, A Christmas Gift from Italy, written by Kate West, illustrated by Ken Shuey. Once upon a time, in a land now known as Italy, there was a village on top of a hill that sparkled. And in that village, at the bottom of that hill, lived a little old woman who made it sparkle. Her name was La Befana. La Befana delighted in keeping the village clean for all to enjoy. One night, on her way home from sweeping the village, La Befana noticed the sky was brighter than usual. She looked up and saw a star unlike any she had ever seen. The star twinkled so brightly that it appeared to be smiling down upon her with gentle rays of love and beauty. La Befana was so inspired by the star that she decided to bake some cookies in the shape of stars. Completely wrapped up in the joy of baking, La Befana was startled to hear 3 knocks on her door. She rushed to the door to see who was there, but when she opened it, the sky was completely black. Under the black sky, in the doorway, stood 3 men dressed in robes. They were following the bright star in search of a baby boy who they heard was to be born that evening, which happened to be December 24th. But the men had lost their way when the star disappeared under a cloud. Hearing what a delightful old woman lived at the bottom of the hill, they decided to stop and ask her for directions. La Befana had never left her village and was sorry she could not help with directions. But she was so happy to have guests on such a joyful night, she invited them in for food and rest. As the star cookies lay cooling, La Befana danced about her kitchen and joyfully prepared a meal for her guests. They ate a feast, laughed, and told stories about their journey. After the feast, the men began to doze off. As one of them began snoring loudly, La Befana noticed a beam of light had returned through her kitchen window. The cloud was gone, and the star once again twinkled brightly in the night sky. La Befana woke the men and hurried them to the door. To thank her for such a wonderful time, they invited her to join them on their quest. But she glanced back to the kitchen where dirty dishes, pots, and pans were piled high. La Befana told them she had too much housework to do, but she ran back to the kitchen to give them one last treat. She packed her star cookies in bundles and sent them on their way. As La Befana began to clean, she looked out her window and saw the 3 men following the star. They disappeared over the top of the hill, and La Befana's kitchen once again grew dark. She realized she had made a big mistake. What was she doing cleaning on such a miraculous night? She tossed the rest of the cookies into a basket and set out after them, trudging up the hill as she tried to catch up. She walked through hills, cities, mountains, and valleys, but she didn't find them. By the time she made it back to her village, she was very tired. She could barely walk the last few steps to her home. A yellow canary named Martino was perched on a nearby tree. He saw her struggle and helped her through the door. But hope was not lost. It never is. With her last ounce of strength, La Befana took a single cookie from the basket she had packed, and as she took a bite, something miraculous happened. She began to glow. She went to sleep that night excited, though she did not know why. Early the next morning, La Befana jumped out of bed. She had a plan. In order to make up for what she missed, she would deliver star cookies to the children of Italy to share with them the brightness of the light from the star the night before. The love in her heart was so strong as she baked that it poured into her bowl and filled her kitchen with a joy so big that it flew out her window and woke Martino, the canary who had helped her the night before. La Befana offered him some cookie crumbs to thank him for helping her. Martino took one peck at the cookies, and he began to glow too. La Befana had put so much love into the cookies that everyone who took a bite felt that love, and they began to glow with love from within. They became instant friends. La Befana handed Martino a whisk, and together they began to bake. Oh, what a joyful time it was as they mixed, rolled, and cut out thousands of star cookies. And when they were done, they packed the cookies in bundles and set them out, ready to be delivered. Then, on the 12th day of Christmas, the 2 set out. Excited to arrive at the first rooftop and deliver the first bundle, La Befana climbed down the chimney. Martino flew above, holding the bundled cookies in his beak. Once La Befana reached the bottom, Martino dropped the bundles down in after her. Ker-plunk! The bundles landed on top of La Befana's head and broke into tiny pieces on the floor. La Befana climbed back up the chimney and looked out over the rooftops. They wondered how they could possibly deliver cookies to so many children all in one night. On a nearby cloud, an angel named Epiphany woke from her sleep. She looked down from her cloud and saw two people, well, one was a bird, whose desire to give was much bigger than they could handle on their own, and Epiphany knew what she must do. She dove down from her cloud, twirled around the sky, and into the village, where La Befana and Martino stood looking out on the roof. And with one touch of Epiphany's hand, Befana's broom became magic. Just like that, La Befana and Martino took off into the night on their new magic broom. They delivered cookies to each child sleeping soundly in bed, and to some who couldn't even sleep with so much joy in the air. The following morning, children all over the land awoke to discover bundles of cookies in their homes, and every child who took a bite of La Befana's star cookies began to glow with love from within. Joyful celebrations broke out as people gathered in the village square. The celebration made so many people happy that La Befana continued to bring joy to the children each year at Christmas. And still, to this day, each time someone takes a bite of a La Befana star cookie, they glow from within because of all the love that La Befana put into the cookies. And if you believe, she'll even visit you too. The end.